In a previous lesson, we discussed what Python is. Once again, it's a programming language that is object-oriented. That phrase object-oriented might be a little bit new to you as well, so let's go ahead and break that down now in this lesson. Object-oriented programming is a way to think of objects in a categorical way. In terms of Revit, you can think of this as wall types, wall instances, the properties on the walls, what you can do to walls, add doors to them, things like that. Let's go ahead and break this down a slightly different way. On the screen, this is a picture of my dog Zero, and he is an animal. He's of a namespace, animals. I think we can all agree that a dog exists in the class of animals. So that is a category with classes within it. He is a class of the namespace animals. He is a dog or canine. So he's a subclass of that overall class of animals. Further down, we have other properties of that subclass. So every dog there is will probably have a name, a breed, and maybe their fur color or something like that. Those are the properties of those individual objects within the class. So in this case, my dog Zero is an object within the dog class, which exists in the animal's namespace. It's kind of a weird way to think about it, but we'll connect it all here in a minute. For all of the properties, these are all things that exist that we can actually get from him if we pay attention. In addition to properties, we have methods. So in this case, he has a few commands that he knows. He knows sit and he knows stay. Those are actions on this object, which is once again Zero. If we were to try to use a command that he doesn't know, like roll over, it's an error. It's an invalid method that does not exist on this object or the class or the namespace that it belongs to. So in this case, that wouldn't be found and we can't use that. This is a great example because in the Revit API, we are limited as to what the API allows. So in this case, if we were to look at another category of walls, we can see that walls have properties. Walls have properties like height, comments, length, area, material takeoff, all those things. In addition, walls in Revit have actions, the methods that we can use. That includes trim, extend, you can edit the profile, you can add doors to the walls, all those kind of things. Those are our methods. If you were to try to do something to a wall that you can't do, which in previous versions of Revit 21 and older, you couldn't make a slanted wall, that wasn't in the API and you'd get an error. Newer versions of Revit have that option, so that is a method that's available to us. So if you were to create a Python script to slant a wall in Revit 2023, but go back to Revit 20, that command wouldn't exist. So the same way that it works for my dog, it works for objects within Revit. And we'll keep coming back to this topic as we work through Python scripts. But when you start to think of it that way, to where there's namespaces, classes within there, properties and methods, it's easy to always return to that. It's very much how Revit thinks, to where it's categories that relate to one another and properties. So I think as a Revit user, we'll just keep relating it back to that for you as well. So with that in mind, that is a brief introduction to object-oriented programming. See you in the next lesson.